All right, we're on the air. So welcome to the Tabernacle of Truth. We meet every Sunday at 12 p.m. Central Time. If you're on the East Coast, you'll have to get on at 1 o'clock. If you're on the West Coast, you'll have to get on at 10 a.m. All right, so today's topic is giving and receiving. Welcome, Eric, David, Jan. How are you guys today?
Good.
Good.
Blessed.
So as usual, when I start my research, I just go right here to the reference library. And I start out with Strong's Concordance. And I just type in giving. As you can see, I've already done that. And whenever I type that in, you can see I've got every place in the Bible where it has the word giving. And what I found out was, there's a lot of different meanings for the word because it was originally written in Hebrew. And so if we look at the Hebrew, let's see, let me jump back to the topic. If we go to the Hebrew form of the word giving, it's nothing. Its primitive root is to give, used with greatest latitude of application. So it could mean to ascribe to someone. I thought avenge was kind of a strange use of the word, but to charge someone, to commit, to cry, to deliver up, to fasten. It could even be to hire someone. So giving has there's a lot of different ways you can give. And that's even true today. A lot of what I wanted to talk about today is the different ways people give. When I was a kid, I asked, how can I give? And my preacher told me that I could give with my talents. And the fact that I was a good artist, he told me one day maybe I could do art that would glorify God. And just this website, what I do every week, I feel like is my form of giving. And I just wanted to point out one of the things I was doing this week is I was reading a book called The Mystical Kabbalah. We talked about this tree of life a couple of weeks ago. Let me see if I can get the camera to pick it up. The tree of life is this symbol as far as Jewish mystics were concerned. And in there, it talks about how Jesus was an Essene. And my dad used to talk about that a lot. Essenes. Right here it says the Essene is a third faction of the Jews. The Jews were in several factions. You might have heard of the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and the Essenes were a third faction of Jews. And Jesus fell into this third faction. He was a bit of a mystic. No one really knows who they were. The fact that he was doing miracles is not a far stretch for being an Essene, because they were kind of considered to be magicians. Jesus, it says, the Essenes were a particularly interest of the scholars because they are believed to be an offshoot of the group that lived in Qumran near the Dead Sea. In 1947, a Bedouin shepherd stumbled into a cave containing various ancient artifacts, jars containing manuscripts describing the beliefs of the sect and events of the time. The most popular documents, often only parchment fragments that had to be meticulously restored, were the earliest known copies of the Old Testament. The similarity of the substance of the material found in the scrolls to that in modern scriptures has confirmed the authenticity of the Bible used today. So like you've probably heard of the Dead Sea Scrolls. They were found back in the 50s. And a lot of people, they say, oh, well, Constantine wrote the Bible. That the Bible we read has been manipulated by the Romans. But the Dead Sea Scroll discovery in 1947 can give us some confidence that the Bible has not changed all that much since those old times. And so the Essenes were a part of the group that was holding on to these old scrolls. And they're probably the ones that wrote the Old Testament. And Jesus would have been a part of this ancient secret society. I found a passage looking through the Strong's Concordance. One of the most interesting passages I read. A lot of giving that it's talking about is giving tithe early in the Bible, and then most of it that I could find was actually just giving thanks. I didn't read a lot of things where it said give to the poor, which was strange to me. That's what I was looking for. But I didn't find a lot of that. It was mostly giving thanks. And most of it was in the Old Testament. If you start to look, though, for giving and receiving, I started to find a lot more things. So I thought it was interesting that each week when we pick a topic, it seems to evolve as we do our research. Last week, we talked about light, and we couldn't really, Robert and I both agreed that if you couldn't really do the research on light without associating it with darkness. And this week was the same. I really couldn't do much research on giving unless I included the concept of receiving. And it's, as you can see, every week we seem to have this duality. We had Moses and Aaron, Jacob and Esau, Cain and Abel. There's always a duality. Whenever we're talking about one thing, there's always an opposite side of it. And I really thought that went well with what Eric was talking about. After church last week, Eric talked about the shift, and I gave that to everyone as homework. And in the movie The Shift, he talks about a concept of Taoism. He has Eastern philosophy, but he's also a Christian. So he believes in God, believes in Jesus, but he also believes in a lot of things that the Taoists say. Now, I was doing some research, and there is, okay, so let me say this two different ways. Some people say that Jesus went to the East and preached to all those people, and the people of Japan, people of China believe in something that Jesus brought to them. Similar, some people say that Buddha was Jesus in India. And it's possible, and it's definitely true that for about 18 years, nobody knew what Jesus was doing. Since the time he was 12 and preaching in Egypt, until he was 30, nobody really knew what he was doing. And so it is possible that he traveled to the East and he taught this stuff worldwide. And so when people say all religions are similar, it's hard on the surface, it's hard to see how they're similar, but it's possible that maybe they had the same teacher 2,000 years ago, and it evolved into what it is today. Just like with Noah's Ark, we talked about how there was probably not 1,000 kind of cats. There was probably a lion, and all the cats we have today are devolved down from that lion. And so these religions also devolve from a single source. It's possible. So I just wanted to read, did you guys watch any of the Shift?
Yes, I did.
No. I saw something on Facebook about it one day and watched a few minutes about it, but it was kind of weird.
I thought it was really good.
Well, they're showing this to people that are in recovery, and Eric said it really helped him. And so I watched it, and I thought it was great. It was a little slow. And if you didn't pay attention to the whole thing, I could see how you might think that maybe it wasn't interesting. But if you watch the whole thing through, I think it's one of the most powerful films ever made. And I wanted to start it over again immediately afterwards. Eric, do you have anything you want to say before I hit play on this? You're muted, brother. There you go.
No, I the way that the shift was presented to me and my surroundings and how it was interpreted, because had a person who didn't have a whole lot of experience with it not sat there and kind of interpreted it to me, it would have not meant as much. But the meanings in all of everybody's lives and how, one thought can change how you think. It was amazing, man. So I was just blessed to get it.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and start the video. I'm gonna start it at 10 minutes in, and I'm just gonna play a short little piece of it.
I'd be happy to. One of the things that has intrigued me over the years is so many people coming up when I talk about purpose and finding meaning in their life is what is my purpose? How do I find it? It always seems to be eluding me. I can't seem to get there. I've always felt that the real purpose of life is just to be happy, to enjoy your life, to get to a place where you're not always trying to get someplace else. So many people spend their lives striving, trying to be someplace that they're not. They never get to arrive. One of the ways to understand about how to find your purpose in your life is to return to nature, to find your own nature. I wrote a book a few years back called Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, which was based upon the ancient teachings of Lao Tzu in a book called The Tao Te Ching. Lao Tzu reminds us that all being originates in non-being. Jesus put it this way in the New Testament: it's the spirit that gives life. That you didn't really come from your parents. You really, all of us came from this place called spirit. And when you showed up here in this world, you showed up here from a tiny little drop of human protoplasm, a speck, if you will. And everything that was in that little speck that became you, everything that you needed was in that tiny little speck. The most important metaphors that I ever use is that the first 9 months of your life, from the moment of your conception until the moment of your birth, everything was being handled for you. There was nothing for you to do. You don't get consumed with the color your eyes are going to be or what your body is going to look like. It's all taken care of for you. You just surrender. I call it a future pull. And it's pulling you in the direction of whatever it is that you were supposed to be. And to me, it's not too great a stretch to say if everything you needed for the physical journey was already handled in there, then why not everything for the rest of the journey as well? All of your purpose, it's in there. All of what your personality, it's in there. Everything that you were to be, not just the physical you, but everything, if you just let go and allow. And so we're born. And we look at this beautiful little creature. As parents, I have 8 children. I've seen it happen many times. And you look at this beautiful little child and you look at it and you say, great work, God. Great work. Couldn't be any better. Look.
So one of the main little things that's easy to remember out of that video is what they say in recovery classes. They say, let go and let God. It's kind of like that old country song, let Jesus take the wheel. And you might hear people say something about surrendering. That is a recurring topic that all of us are dealing with. I wanted to just read a little bit about what it says about Taoism. And I've heard David talk about Taoism a little bit. I was hoping he might have some insight into this. A subtle and cosmic duality. Yin and yang elements come in pairs, such as the moon and the sun, female and dark, dark and bright, cold and hot, passive and active, and so on. But note that yin and yang are not static or mutually exclusive terms. While the world is composed of many different, sometimes opposing forces, these can coexist and even complement each other. Sometimes forces opposite in nature even rely on one another to exist. The nature of yin and yang lies in the interchange and interplay of the two components. The alternation of day and night is just such an example. There cannot be a shadow without light. And that's what we talked about a lot last week when we were discussing light. The balance of yin and yang is important. If yin is stronger, yang will be weaker, and vice versa. Yin and yang can interchange under certain conditions so that they are usually not yin and yang alone. In other words, yin elements can contain certain parts of yang, and yang can have some components of yin. This balance of yin and yang is perceived to exist in everything. And so I think that is the reason why our one topic keeps becoming 2 topics. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Does to me.
Every week it happened. Whenever I tried to do Moses, I had to use Moses and Aaron. When we started talking about Jacob, it became about Jacob and Esau. It seems to always have a duality to it. Do you know anything about the Tao Ching, or however you say it, David?
Not really. All I remember is basically what you covered, that it is a way of thinking to where there's out of two, there's the one. You know, the two opposites, there's the one. So it's really about the one.
So this is how I heard it explained. I think it was in that video that we just watched. I think this is how they explained it. You cannot have night without darkness, and you can't have basically these are like fish, and if it's supposed to be the moon and the sun, and you can't have one without the other. So like right here in this picture, you would not see that white dot if it was all black. If the dot was black, you wouldn't see it. And if this dot was white, you wouldn't see it. That's what this symbol's about. Without the dark, you wouldn't be able to see that circle. And without the light, you wouldn't be able to see that dark circle.
And then its ultimate representation is the one. It's a one big circle.
Right.
Yeah.
None of this would exist if there wasn't duality within it. If it was all one color, then it would just be a black dot and it would be nothing. So
yeah, don't think about it too hard.
So let's move on.
But it's relevant. It's relevant to what we're talking about for sure. Yeah.
So this book here, this Kabbalah, back to this, I was talking about, in the book, it talks about how Jesus was an Essene. Essentially, he was a mystic or a magician. And one of the things they talk about, I thought was relevant to when you and I, David, went to the house of David, we kind of experienced something we weren't used to as Southern Baptists. And they talked a lot about money. And it kind of seemed a little bit like The Secret, from also Wayne Dyer, about attracting things, the law of attraction. It was kind of seeming like in the Old Testament in Solomon's day, they kind of believed that you could get money to come to you. And I ran across this concept of spiritual banking, where you can make all this money come to you. And one of the first things they talk about in this book about mystical Kabbalah is the idea that the word money means blood. And that kind of, we a couple of weeks back, we were talking about, like, why would someone sacrifice an animal? Why? And then we also had a week where we talked about the power of the blood. And so I thought it was interesting. I really didn't get beyond it, but my first initial reading of this book took me to a thing where it talks about how money and blood are the same thing. So one of the words for money is damim. This word for money is etymologically rooted to the word dam, which means blood. What is the connection between blood and money? The Kabbalistic answer is stark and surprising. Blood spreads oxygen through your body, allowing us to exert energy. The overwhelming majority of our adult life efforts are invested in making a life and an earning on a paycheck. Our efforts and our energy, our blood is transformed into money. But the blood is more than just a physical means to exert energy. According to the Torah, as explained by Kabbalah, the blood houses a certain facet of the soul. As the verse says, the blood is the soul. This casts all of our worldly possessions in a whole new light. According to the Zohar, when I exert energy, that is the soul expressing itself in the form of physical effort. That effort is transformed into money. Do you see what this means? An echo of the soul itself is contained in my money and my possessions. And when I gift that money to someone else, someone in need, when I give tzedakah, I'm giving that person my very essence. I'm giving them a gift of my soul, a gift of myself. This is the greatest gift that could ever be given. And so for me, like I said, I feel like I don't necessarily tithe. I don't give money to churches. I don't know where that money's going. I feel like whenever someone comes into my home and I give them food, that's how I give. I give whatever I have to give when the situation presents itself. And I think if we look at this passage from Matthew 25, 31 through 46, I'll give you a second to find that verse.
So here's what I was reading about, and now it would probably take me a minute to find it about tithing, but I was reading to where the Levites, they were not given a land inheritance. They were to be the priests, and so they were supposed to receive the best of the first fruits of the people's product. And it sounded to me like they were supposed to take the best of that, and that was the tithe, 10% from that.
Okay, I have something on the exact thing right here. Israel, this is from Dr. Vernon McGee. I've heard him on the radio for years. You ever heard of him, David?
No.
He's on the radio all the time on AM radio, and he's a brilliant biblical scholar. But this is what he said: Israel was a theocracy. Israelites tithe not a tenth, but up to 3/10 to support the priesthood. Yeah. The priest had to work in the temples, so they didn't have time to farm.
Yeah, and they were. Who was it that was in charge of the tabernacle? Like that was their whole job to
Levites.
Yeah, the Levites, and they had charge over everything that had to do with the tabernacle. And so I think they were supposed to be like, since they didn't have a land inheritance, they were like sojourners and travelers.
Right. This video is called "Is Tithing for Today?" And he talks about this group of Macedonians. I don't remember which book it's from. I want to say Galatians, but I'm not sure. But it talks about the Macedonians, and it said, the Lord wants you before he wants you to give. The Lord doesn't want your stuff. He wants you. And so the Galatians were not giving. They're Macedonians. So they're from the upper part of Greece. And so they're not giving to the Levites in the temple. And everyone was saying they're not tithing to the temple. Well, this is at a point, I think it was Mark that discussed that God wants you, your heart, before he wants your stuff. He doesn't want, he wants your hand before he wants the work of your hand. And he wants your heart before he wants the labor of your sweat. Does that make sense? He wants you to give out of your heart, give out of love, and not begrudgingly. So it's not about just like the whole conversation he's having here.
He wants you to give your best.
Well, he's talking in context about like giving to big mega churches so that they can do big giant video presentations, and they can have their jets, and they can have all of the new facilities and things like that. It's not about giving to a church so that you can support their laser light shows. It's about giving.
Yeah, they were all giving food, but it was all food because it said that you'll be able to eat anywhere you go.
I thought it was interesting.
That's all they needed.
I thought it was interesting when they bring a lamb. I read somewhere when they were talking about when you bring a lamb, you got to bring oil as well. Why would you need oil? Because you're gonna fry it up.
Yeah. Right.
And there's a bunch of places where, and you don't really hear about it a lot, but there's a bunch of places where they talk about the priesthood using the lamb. And so basically you're just bringing food for the church barbecue.
Well, Kit, you were talking about you don't know where your money's going and tithing, at a church. And But if you'll think back, how many times, and I was recently in a church that did this, they were getting rid of their pews that they had, and they were donating it and putting it out there for other churches if they needed pews. Or same thing with their hymnals. We're getting rid of these. Would you like to have them? And giving them away. But to me, it was like, there's nothing wrong with these pews that we're sitting in, and there's nothing wrong with these hymnals. But there are a lot of people that could use our heart and soul for, the elderly couple that need their yard worked on. That's giving. They need their screen windows replaced. That's giving. I just don't see why we have to continue to make our house, our church. The church is the people,
Right.
not making it pretty.
Yeah.
So
I would like to.
Well, and it's a matter of God wants it to be a willing gift. Like you're giving it willingly,
Yes.
and not begrudgingly. Whatever it is you're giving to the Lord and to his glory.
Exactly.
It's all about your intent and your purpose. If it doesn't feel right to you, then you shouldn't do it. They don't want it.
Yeah.
There was even a passage where I think it was either Mark or Matthew where they returned a gift because the person didn't know whether they should give it or not, so they refused to take it. I want to read a couple of passages about this. I'd like to touch on some biblical information after hitting the yin and yang there. This passage from Matthew 25 challenges us, since it indicates that people who demonstrate concern and generosity towards helping those in need in tangible ways will be rewarded, and that others have no such hope. It's not enough to just have concern, for as the Apostle James wrote, faith by itself, if it is not accompanied by action, is dead. James 2:17. The Bible also teaches that it's possible to help others in ways that lead to no reward, perhaps to be seen by others or to receive thanks. In other words, without love for those being helped, Paul addresses this in 1 Corinthians 13. If I give all my possessions to feed the poor, and if I surrender my body to be burned, but do not have love, it profits me nothing.
Well, that's right.
And then I'm going to continue that same verse down here. For I was hungry and you gave me something to eat. These are the words of Jesus. For I was hungry and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and you invited me in, naked and you clothed me. And I was sick and you visited me. I was in prison and you came to me. Matthew 25. And then below that, the apostles reply, Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty or a stranger or naked or sick or in prison and didn't do anything to help you? Then he will answer, I assure you that when you haven't done it for one of the least of these, you haven't done it for me. So God is putting himself in the position of someone who needs help. And he says, if you are not helping them, then you're not helping me.
Exactly.
And it says, this is a stark reminder that God is everywhere. Sometimes it can be hard to sense his presence in environments you're not used to, or when you encounter a stranger in need. Keep your heart open and share his love with the world. It's the right thing to do. Now, to me, this has given me chills and it's given me goosebumps because of what Eric went through this week. Eric, I'd like you to give your testimonial. You don't need to say anybody's specific names if you don't want to.
Yeah, man, it's a God thing is all that I can give it up to. But I went to jail this week. I went to jail. I have a life sentence. I got my life sentence revocated, and I was able to. The judge gave a bond, And it was weird how it went. A guy that I go to meetings with, I noticed the God thing's going down immediately in the courtroom, because here's a guy that I go to these meetings that I'm in another group with, and he stands up as the judge comes in, and he lets the judge know he doesn't know why he's there, but he's there to fill in for the public defender. And they send me down to go to jail downstairs. And as I get down there, I've spent 2 years of my life there, so I'm quite familiar with it. And I get down there, and of course it's a miserable place. And I hear this lady talking to another guy who's incarcerated down there. And I've never heard a woman talk like this in there. I've never heard anybody talk like this as far as a staff member. And I could tell that she was about done talking. And of course, I'm sitting there in handcuffs. And I said, ma'am, I have to tell you, that is the best stuff I've heard ever in this place. And it was all about how she's trying to make it better for those guys, and she's trying to get them things, and she knows they don't have towels, she knows they don't have soap, she knows they don't have this. And this lady had a really good conversation with me, and I asked her who she was, and she's the jail administrator. And I was shocked, and I said, well, I tell you what, I don't know if I'm getting out of here today, but if I get out of here today, I'm going to do everything I can to help give these guys that are in here what I can. And I came back home, and it was just like the day before, man. 4 bags of towels had come in, the business here. And so I went through them, and they were all super nice. And parts of, they were Martha Stewart. They're expensive towels. And parts of me wanted to keep it. I thought, no way, man, I got to give these up to these guys that are in there. And for it all to happen, for the jail administrator to even give me her phone number and to talk to me, that's like completely bizarre,
Yeah.
2 months ago where I was at in life to now. I'm having conversations with the jail administrator so that I can go and give to people who are in like dire straits. Those guys can't dry off. Those guys can't take showers. And that's all you got in there. All you got. That's the only thing that you can really do to make you feel better a lot of times, is to go get water on you and to not even have a shower to dry off. It's just, or a towel to dry off. But it felt great. It got me out of my thinking, because whenever I was down there in that jail, I got to thinking about the circumstances, the consequences that I got myself in. And man, I got super depressed. Boom. I was having emotional crying, for this little boy here. You know what I mean? It gonna miss his daddy. And it got me out of that thinking. Me thinking how I can give got me out of that depressive state, man, like that. You know what I mean? And it was just an amazing thing that all I can do is give it up to God, and I was able to do that. And by giving, I received that blessing. You know what I mean? It's a two-way street. It's that yin and that yang that you were talking about. If I can give those blessings away, I can continue to receive them. You know what I mean? So
Right.
it was.
That's wonderful story. Great testimony.
Well, here's what it says in Isaiah chapter 42, verses 6-7. It says, I, the Lord, have called thee in righteousness, and will hold thine hand, and will keep thee, and give thee. Okay, the Lord's going to give it for a covenant of the people, for a light of the Gentiles, to open the blind eyes, to bring out the prisoners from the prison, and them that sit in darkness out of the prison house. So that's what the Lord says.
Wow.
Wow.
To the Gentiles, back in Isaiah. Could you read that part about Gentiles one more time?
In verse 6 it says, for a light of the Gentiles. For a light. We talked about light last week.
Well, there's a lot of people, just so I don't know if Eric understands what that means, but Gentiles are basically non-Jewish people. And there was a lot of debate even after Jesus's time, and whether or not the Gentiles could be Jews. Could they be converted? If you're a Christian, should you have to follow the 10 Commandments, the laws of the Jews? Do you need to be circumcised? All this kind of thing. And I think it's interesting because Isaiah is long before Jesus. That would have been probably 500 years before Jesus. Someone is saying something about being a light unto the Gentiles. I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is.
Okay, so I'd like to now go to a preacher, this guy right here, Les Brown, The Power of Giving. I've got some notes here about the things that he said. The part that I thought was really interesting is where he talks about giving is also forgiving. Not just other people, not just
I came across something like that and had me thinking about that too, but it was, something I had read about forgive.
He says it's not just for other people, but also ourselves. You can't really, if you're holding on to your past, you can't move forward. You've heard cliches like that before, but of all the videos that I watched a lot of videos and I included a lot of them on this page. But I really think this guy had something really good to say. And I'm going to start it at 18 minutes, 30 seconds in, and I'm just going to let it play for about 3 or 4 minutes. I think the way he says it is much more powerful than the way I could ever say it.
In their lives. And these are people that you don't want to be around. Develop a spirit of gratitude. I'm thankful for life. I'm thankful for being American. I'm thankful to be on this part of the planet. I'm thankful to see another day. No, things aren't what I want them to be. No, I don't have all the things I want to have. But I'm thankful that I'm still here. I have another opportunity, another day to live, another chance to contribute, another chance to make a difference in life. So begin to give thanks for what you have. But you focus on it. Remember now, you want to become aligned with the universe. If you have scarcity in your life, it's because you have a consciousness of scarcity. As you begin to become thankful for what you have, for the abundance that you now know is coming your way, that you're attracting to you, for the good relationship that is coming your way right now, it will begin to create incredible opportunities for you to begin to improve your life and the quality of life of people around you. Giving is also, ladies and gentlemen, forgiving. Give forgiveness. Many of us do not realize that we cannot grow, that we're blocking ourselves, we're blocking our good in the universe. We're literally standing in the way of the flow of what life has to us because we haven't learned how to forgive. We haven't learned how to let things go so we can get on with our lives. When we forgive, ladies and gentlemen, it's not for the other person. Oh, no. It's for you. It's not for them, not because they deserved it or they earned it. You're forgiving other people. First of all, you've got to forgive yourself. When you forgive other people, it is mentally and spiritually healthy to forgive. To let that luggage go, as Paul said, forgetting those things which are behind, looking forward to those things which are before. Oh, we hear it, but it's hard to do. It's hard. What you have is enough. Whatever you have to give. And the more you give, the more you realize you have to give. And we all have to. There are people who made the supreme sacrifice for us to enjoy freedoms that we take for granted. Oh, none of us can feel that we have nothing to give back. Next thing is giving empowers you.
Okay, so I think I'd like, Eric, if you'd like, I'd like you to share the other story that you shared with me about an instance in where you forgave someone.
Are you talking about the same time this week whenever I was down there?
If you're comfortable telling the story.
Yeah, so it's really the best part of the story. So in being down there, I've like I said, I've done 2 years of my life down there in that dungeon. And I find it after I hear the story, the jail administrator talking to this guy, and God puts it in my heart that I'm capable to give something, these towels, and I'm like really praying that I'm going to get out of jail, not just to give, but so that I can prove to myself that this is a real conviction in me and that I want to get out. And I find out that I'm making bond. The jailers are real busy and the other people are going on. And I say, hey, I got to use the bathroom. So the guy says, oh, all right, open cell 11. So they open the cell and I go in there and there's a guy with a blanket pulled up over his head. I can't see who he is. And it's just proper jail etiquette that, you know, those lids don't lift up and they're just a steel pot. So I'm peeing in it. And to be polite and respectful, I know that you're supposed to wipe the rim because the pee splatters. So I look over and I see the guy's toilet paper. And he's asleep. Obviously, the blanket's up over his head. And I say, hey, man, can I get your toilet paper to wipe the rim off? And he throws the blanket back. And it was a friend that I've had for a long time. And he's wronged me. He had told on me in the past. And just all at once, I forgave him. I got down there and I hugged him and he hugged me back. And we both had an emotional moment. And, the guard was making, weird comments like, well, I guess I'll just leave you two in here, and we laughed about it. And I got out of there and they put me back on the little dog chain and I was sitting there and the guard had gone up to him. He called the guard over to his cell because he's kind of out there in the crazy cell. And he asked the guard if he could come out and sit on the chain across from me and talk to me. And the guard did. The guard asked me if I minded. I said, no, man, I'd like to talk to that guy. And so he came out there and sat across from me for about 30 minutes. And it was real nice of the guards to do that. I've never known the guards to do that in that place. But, it's a God thing that they did that. And, obviously they could tell that I'm not the same crazy person that I have been going in there. And it was real cool. I got to sit there and talk to this guy and tell him about the miracles that are happening in me. And I could see how twisted and I could feel how twisted his thinking still is, to where 2 months ago, I would be in the same twisted thinking pattern as him. You know what I mean? And he was just, every time a guard walked by, he'd say, I can't believe this is coming out of his mouth. This is a miracle. I never thought I'd hear this stuff coming out of his mouth. And it troubled him so much to think that it didn't trouble him. It got put on his heart so much that he had to go back to his cell where he felt comfortable so that he could process it all because he was getting emotional. And I promised him that I would do everything I could to help him and to send him down where these, earthly angels are, I feel, to get the help that he needs. And it was just, it was an amazing thing. And whenever I left there, because these blessings that I'm getting, that I'm receiving are only possible if I'm giving, you know what I mean? As long as I keep giving out these blessings and sharing all this positive, stuff, more is put in. And I'm right now it's a real battle in my mind because, here I've got this life sentence revocated. And it's crazy to think about and to think that I'm not high and I'm not out doing what I feel so comfortable doing because I'm real good at that. I'm real good at going out and forgetting about all my problems. You know what I mean? I know how to do that well. And the only thing that is getting me out of that is giving away all of these blessings of this new way of living that I've discovered. You know what I mean? And I can only give it up to God. And God, everything that has happened to me at this point is exactly how it's supposed to happen. Because for me to feel the way that I feel right now, everything that did happen in my life was supposed to happen, bro. And all these blessings that I'm getting and all this armor that I'm able to put on now to do battle against the darkness, because I'm living in the light. You know what I mean? It's all a wonderful thing. And I love giving it away. You know what I mean? I love being around people and I love sharing it and I love giving it away. You know what I mean? So giving and forgiving and all those things are a part of my life now. I'm not living in my own head and doing all the selfish things. So I'm just extremely blessed and thankful for this, for you, for all of you beautiful people on here. So
I just want to point out that in the yin yang symbol here, kind of illustrates it perfectly. We had it over here. So looking at this symbol here, you are able to see well, dang it, I couldn't get the right symbol, but okay, so God, we talked about God working in the lives of people whose way is hidden, and coming to people who are trapped in the, they have no other way out. And I just like to point out that this symbol really illustrates a little bit of what you're talking about, in that, because, like, let's say it's hard to see a miracle. Like, if you've been doing well for a long time, if you've been going to church all the time, and you can get complacent. You can get complacent because you haven't seen miracles happening sometimes. But it's in dealing with other people that you see the miracles. So if you're staying to yourself, you're not going to church, that's one issue that, we could fall into, being on video chat with the same people every week. That's why we always need new people interjecting in. Is, I'm just sitting here at my house reading my Bible. It's unlikely that I'm gonna, at school, when I'm interacting with people, or online, or talking with my friends, I can see miracles happening in other people's lives. But, if I'm just sitting here at the house and I'm just reading the Bible all the time, it's hard for me to see those miracles happening.
Right. But like for Eric, on 2 Corinthians 2:6-8, remember this: whoever sows sparingly will also reap sparingly. In other words, if you only give whatever, it doesn't have to be 10%. It could be whatever you can give. But if you give like $1, you'll also reap sparingly. So whoever sows generously will also reap generously. Now, you're not doing that so that you can reap generously. You're doing it for your love of Christ, because he died for you. Each of you should give what you have decided in your heart to give, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver, and God is able to bless you abundantly, so that in all things, at all times, having all that you need, you will abound in every good work. So, like I said, it's, I can look around where I live now. Yes, it's a huge difference from where I did live, but I'm at peace with it. I've got everything that a person needs, and I've got 100% more than a lot of people. So, I have to be thankful for that. And God will keep blessing me, because I'm going to cheerfully give what I can, even if it's not the smartest thing for myself to do. I know God has a plan for me. He has a plan for each of us, and we can't change that plan. It's going to happen with God's timing.
Speaking of reaping and sowing, that goes along with the number one verse that I have up here at the top. Of all the verses that I read, I thought this was the most relevant to what Jesus wants for us. Galatians 6:8. For the one who sows to his own flesh will be from the flesh and reap corruption, but the one who sows the Spirit will from the Spirit reap eternal life.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
I have a few things when we get a chance. I've got just a few verses that I kind of, I did a lot of studying, but you know how it is. You don't piece things together till, kind of last minute, and it doesn't necessarily sometimes mean anything to you. Maybe it doesn't mean anything to other people, but I kind of found little elements of what we've been talking about the last 2 or 3 weeks in these different verses, and and then you brought up some different scripture that was out of the same book that I found here this morning, but we'll start with James. Are you able to with your website to go ahead and pull these verses up?
It's not James 2:15, is it? Because I happen to have that same verse on the screen.
Well, no, this is James 1:17.
I can just
18.
I'm doing the whole screen now instead of just one window, so I can bring up whatever you want. James.
Well, I thought you had some tools in your in the website itself where you can go and.
Oh, I do, but it's probably faster just to do this.
Okay. So yeah, 17 through 18.
All right, let me just pull it right up. 17 through 18.
Yeah. So we're talking about giving. Okay. So in James chapter 1, verses 17 through 18, it says, every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of the heavenly lights, who does not change like shifting shadow. And see, the book I was reading was a little bit. Do you have the King James version?
I can just
Yeah, right.
I can just flip it right here.
Okay. Yeah.
King James.
Sorry about that. I'm just kind of messes me up if I try to
17.
interpret different. But it says,
17
okay, so
through 18.
17 through 18. Every good gift and every perfect gift is from above and cometh down from the Father of lights, with whom is no variableness, neither shadow of turning. Of his own will begat he us with the word of truth, that we should be a kind of first fruits of his creatures. So there it says he's the Father of lights, and there's no variableness nor shadow of turning. And that word turning is like the word revolving. So it made me like think of the earth, how as it revolves, the sun is shaded until it becomes dark at night and then continues revolving. But there's no variableness in the light that he gives. All right, so then Isaiah 45. Verse 7. Now Isaiah, he uses the word light a lot in the book of Isaiah, and so I'd encourage you if you're studying about light, see what Isaiah had to say about it. But here's what it says in chapter 45, verse 7. It says, I form the light and create darkness. This is the Lord speaking. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. So we're talking about duality and dualism, it's important to remember that those were ways of thinking. The people who studied those philosophies, that wasn't a worship of God. It was a way of like thinking about reality or whatever. But it still applies even here in the Bible. Certain ways of thinking and the way that God himself explains it. All right, Isaiah 60 and 19. And Isaiah, that's where those verses were that I mentioned earlier, Eric. We were talking about the prisoners. Isaiah 60 and 19, it says, then, or excuse me, it says, the sun shall be no more thy light by day, neither for brightness shall the moon give light unto thee, but the Lord shall be unto thee an everlasting light, and thy God thy glory. So that, yeah, the light is your glory. 61 verses 1 through 3. All right, so and I have trouble remembering when I say, Isaiah 61 verses 1 through 3, so we'll just have to read it and see what it says and why this was part of my thinking for what I studied here. It says, the Spirit of the Lord God is upon me, because the Lord hath anointed me to preach good tidings unto the meek. Okay, this is what Jesus was, when they came and asked him, he said, tell them that these things that have been done, right? He hath sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and the opening of the prison to them that are bound, verse 2, to proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord and the day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all that mourn, to appoint unto them that mourn in Zion, to give unto them beauty for ashes, oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness. Oh, and then here's why this one stood out to me, that they might be called trees of righteousness, the planting of the Lord, that he might be glorified. And that was what we had talked about, trees, a couple of weeks ago, and somehow I came across that, that they might be called trees of righteousness. He referred to whoever that is there as trees.
Also,
Wow.
the proverb about the mustard seed goes along a little bit with that. One of the interesting things about the mustard seed parable is that the mustard seed is the smallest of seeds, but it makes the biggest of trees. And that also has a little bit to do, I think, with what Jesus says about the meek inheriting the earth, and blessed are those in poor of spirit. I think a little bit of what they're saying is along the lines of what Solomon was saying in Ecclesiastes last week, that the one who is at his rock bottom is often the one the light is given to. And sometimes it's the person who has the least amount of spirit who could become the biggest tree to branch out. In the end, they could make the most difference, possibly. And I can see that.
All right, I got two more verses here, Revelation 22 and 5. And here in Revelation, now we're in the New Testament, it says, and there shall be no night there, and they need no candle. Okay, we were talking about candles, right? Before, and like this representing the spirit, the seven spirits. And anyways, neither light of the sun, for the Lord God giveth them light, and they shall reign forever and ever. To me, that just stood out as an important verse. And then Revelation 11 and 4. So remember that it says, and they need no candle. People are always asking about what this verse means. These are the two olive trees and the two candlesticks standing before the God of the earth. So, but it says, and if you go to that last one we read, it says they will no longer need candles, which I thought that it was just interesting to me, the discrepancy between those two verses. I don't know what it means, but it stood out. The two olive trees and the two candlesticks.
So all of that was about last week's topic, light. And we need to discuss what our topic this week is, giving. What should our topic for next week be? Eric, is there anything that we discussed that you'd like to know more about?
No, I'm going to say this though. After that court date and I got back, I've sensed a feeling of doom twice that's been real overwhelming, and it was getting to me. Luckily, I have some of these angels still in Florida that I do Zoom meetings with. My therapist doing a Zoom meeting with him, and I was telling him how I sensed this doom, and he says, well, you know what you need to do. You need to double down on your giving. He says, you need to, because I told him, I relayed the stories of my life and, all this God stuff. And he says, it sounds like you need to double down. It sounds like you need to take a meeting and give in that jail. You know what I mean? Give these blessings that you're receiving and take a meeting into there. And I don't know if this Zoom church could be possible to have a Zoom meeting into that, you know what I mean? To talk to that jail administrator and to see if, because they do Zoom meetings for court. You know what I mean? I don't know. That would be an easy thing for them to do, to take the little monitor and push it in there and let some of those guys out of their cages to receive some of these blessings. You know what I mean? To sit and get them out of their, you know, the hell on earth that they're in. So it's something to think about, and I'll talk to you more
Well,
about
because, and here's the reason why, because they're going to go back into their cell and they're going to sit there, and the only thing they have to sit there with is themselves and what they're thinking about, you know. And so if they, and maybe if there's a way, like you're saying, to plant that mustard seed kit, then their mind can open up, you know, and they won't have that blindness, and maybe they can find some joy during that time that they've had to reflect on their actions.
good. And that's good. And for the innocent that are in there, you know what I mean? Because we're so quick to assume that, and for all of it, I think it's a great thing. I think that I think it's a God thing. You know what I mean? Because that's how those guys go to court. They don't go up in front of that judge. They have Zoom meetings. And if you're able to give a viable option, then on Sunday, they can go to Zoom church. It'd be real easy for those guys to snap to it and to participate in that. You know what I mean? So, and for me to have the jail administrator's phone number saved on my phone, it seems like a no-brainer. You know what I mean?
I think after hearing you give your testimony earlier, really, it doesn't do it justice, the whole story. I mean, if they knew the succession of miracles that happened back to back, there's a lot you left out. And it is, there's no doubt in my mind or yours that God's doing that. And both of us have said, and we even said before you joined this, our way is hidden. We don't really know where this whole thing's going. And if a opportunity like that presents itself, I don't see how there's any way we can deny it.
Cool. I'm all the way in, man. For sure. I think it's a miracle.
That's
Surely
right.
is. Surely is. I'd like to go ahead and wrap some things up. I know Eric's got some things he's wanting to get to do. So it is 1:06. We've been on for over an hour. So I'd like to end with this passage from Ephesians that I feel like really sums up what we were just talking about. Ephesians 4:28. Let the thief no longer steal, but rather let him labor, doing honest work with his own hands, so that he may have something to share with anyone in need.
Well, that's a good one.
Amen.
Good hope.
You should probably look that up and tattoo that or something. Because that's like really, really perfect.
What was it again?
Can we play a song? Can we play a song here in a minute to close it out?
Yeah.
That kind of goes.
You got one?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Right now?
Yeah.
Oh, you'll have to go to it on YouTube.
Okay, sure.
What was that verse? Ephesians what?
Ephesians 4:28.
Go to Blues Brothers, I Have Seen the Light.
Oh, I watched. Actually, I was saying something in the intro before this video started about how we were on a mission from God. Just okay, what's it called? Blues Brothers.
Yeah, go. I Have Seen the Light, I think. Yeah, there you go. You can click it. And yeah, you do that one.
Okay, so we're gonna just keep playing this. Love you guys. We'll see you next week. Our topic. What do we want to do for our topic next week before I play the song on the way out? Mom, would you like to pick one?
Well, yes, I would. I think that along with everything we've talked about receiving and giving and being hypocritical and stuff, if we talked about either hypocrisy, excuse me, or an idolatry, because it gets really kind of thick, because you think, well, I know for a fact I don't get a lot of things done because I idle the TV, and it may take me away from the word or for my quiet time with Jesus. So you're really idolizing technology or something.
Yeah, those are definitely difficult topics to understand. So anytime, we need to understand something like that, yeah, we should dive into it. So what was it, hypocrisy or idolatry?
Yeah, right.
I
I like it.
I got something to contribute on idolatry. I mean, I like hypocrisy too. If we were to pick one, I'm going to go with idolatry.
Yeah.
And we can do hypocrisy later on.
I'll second that.
That's great.
Okay, so we're gonna call it quits for today, and we're gonna play this James Brown with the Blues Brothers. Can you see the light? All right, see you guys next week. Love you very much. Enjoy the show.
Go with God.
Before you scroll away, you need to hear this. Republicans across the country are.
What I'm saying is, you gotta figure out some way to get that money, honest. Well, that could be a problem. It's like the Penguin says, we gotta make that move toward redemption. We gotta go to church.
You gotta make that move toward redemption, you gotta go to church.
I was surprised at how good Dan Aykroyd can dance.
He's so young.
You can't hear it.
You can't hear it?
No.
I can't even.
You can hear it, Mom?
What's up this morning?
Oh, it's broken up.
You guys can't hear it?
No.
Okay. Well, it'll play in the video.
Yeah.
I looked at the disturbance now. I said, what's up this morning?
I went to an AME church in Southern Georgia, and it was spiritual.
You went to some churches like that?
Yeah, I went to one. My neighbor invited me. Yeah, they did a dance interpretation, and there was lots of singing and everything. Yeah, it was good.
It's kind of like speaking in tongues. I feel like the Spirit.
It was different, but it was alive.
I watch a lot of videos where they take these and they dub heavy metal over the top, so they're dancing to like Slayer.
Yeah.
He's losing control. Uh-oh.
So I mean, you ever just wish you could dance like that too? You know, you just
Oh,
want to
yeah.
dance
I wish.
and sing. All right, Kit, Jen,
Yeah.
I'll see you guys. Kit, I'll be up there Monday. So
All right. Hey, cool. See you.
see ya.
I'll watch this later. Y'all have a good week.
Mom, I didn't know if I told you or not, but David started working up at the school at Jay.
Well, praise the Lord. What's he gonna do?
He's 7. Started out at the upper elementary. They'll probably move him around.
Yeah, that's good.
$2 a day for certified.
Yeah.
That's what I tried to get you to do.
Yeah.
They
And,
need subs, so they say.
yeah. And Kate even mentioned coming down to down to where you worked, because she said you could meet me in Jay. And I said, well, Kit's trying to get me to go to Jay. And Terry said, we need him at Grove. So I may get tired of what I'm doing because I have to stand up, so many hours a day. It's like 3 hours a day at the Rooster. And it gets hard on my feet because it's like cement. So eventually I'll probably change.
I'll tell you what, I've seen subs come in and just bring their lunch and post their feet up on the desk, and they're asleep before the first hour bell rings. So
That's not.
you can have a good time of it if you want. It's a good job.
Yeah, it is. It goes quick.
Yeah.
Days go by quick.
That's the thing for me. I got to stay busy all the time, or that clock takes forever to hit 3 o'clock. It can either feel like an eternity or it can feel like the blink of an eye. It depends on how much work you're putting in.
Yep.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Love you guys.
See ya.
Bye-bye.